It started as a whisper, a flicker of tension that only the most observant fans could feel. Then, like everything in Hollywood, that whisper grew louder, until it became impossible to ignore. For years, Jamie Dornan managed to balance two worlds: the devoted husband and father at home with Amelia Warner, and the on-screen partner whose chemistry with Dakota Johnson became the heartbeat of a billion-dollar film franchise. But when those two worlds began to collide, the silence surrounding them became deafening. The first spark appeared on red carpets. Photos captured what words didn't need to say. Amelia standing just a little too far from Dakota, the polite smiles that never quite reached their eyes. Fans noticed. The headlines came next. Cold glances between Amelia and Dakota, Dornan caught in the middle. At first, everyone dismissed it as media fabrication, the usual attempt to turn civility into drama. But then, subtle moments kept resurfacing. Amelia skipping premieres, Dakota attending alone, Jamie appearing unusually tense in interviews where her name came up. To understand the tension, you have to go back to 50 Shades of Grey. It wasn't just another movie. It was an emotional minefield, intimate, risky, and impossible to fake. The chemistry between Jamie and Dakota was magnetic, the kind that blurred the lines between performance and reality. Fans around the world were obsessed, convinced that what they saw on screen had to come from something deeper. But behind that chemistry was a quiet storm brewing at home. Jamie was newly married to Amelia when 50 Shades began filming. While the world was celebrating the new sex symbol of Hollywood, Amelia was left to face headlines that dissected every glance, every touch, every rumor about her husband and his co-star. She never spoke publicly, but her silence spoke volumes. Still, Jamie and Dakota's connection was undeniable. They became each other's confidants, spending months together on set, trusting each other completely in emotionally vulnerable scenes. Dakota once described Jamie as a safe place in an otherwise chaotic environment. And Jamie, when asked about working with her, said, "We went through something together that only the two of us will ever understand." That kind of bond, while innocent, can be threatening from the outside looking in. Reports began circulating that Amelia wasn't comfortable with how close they'd become. Some claimed she asked Jamie to limit contact with Dakota after the trilogy ended. Others said Dakota felt hurt, believing their friendship was being quietly erased to protect appearances. The tension wasn't just personal, it became public. During one interview promoting his new project, Jamie was asked if he still kept in touch with Dakota. His smile faltered for a split second before he answered, "We'll always be connected by that experience." It was meant to sound neutral, but to fans, it sounded loaded, like a man trying to balance truth and loyalty in a single sentence. Then came the event that lit the fire. A reporter claimed that during an industry gathering, Amelia and Dakota were seen in a brief but visibly tense exchange. No shouting, no scandal, just an icy stillness that everyone in the room felt. Within hours, the internet exploded. The rift confirmed, tabloids screamed. Social media divided instantly. Team Amelia and Team Dakota. Fans of 50 Shades defended Dakota, saying she had always respected Jamie's marriage. Others rallied behind Amelia, insisting no wife could be expected to stay calm while the world romanticized her husband with another woman. Through it all, Jamie stayed silent. No statement, no interview clarifying the situation. Just the same quiet smile that now looked more like exhaustion than ease. Friends close to him described the situation as impossible. One said, "He loves Amelia deeply. But Dakota is a huge part of his life, whether people like it or not. He's caught between two people who both matter to him, in very different ways." The silence became its own kind of fuel. Every picture of Jamie alone, every interview without Dakota's mention, every event Amelia skipped, all of it became evidence in a story no one could prove but everyone wanted to believe. And in the center of that storm stood Jamie, the man who had built a career on emotional restraint, suddenly living the role of a lifetime. The one where love, loyalty, and perception were tearing at him from opposite sides. By the end of that year, even Jamie's interviews began to sound different. More guarded, more careful. When asked about his family, his answers were full of warmth. When asked about Dakota, there was a pause, the kind of pause that holds 1,000 unsaid things. And then, finally, after months of silence, Jamie decided to speak. Not through a publicist, not in a carefully edited statement, but in his own words. A quiet confession that would not only reveal what really happened, but also the heavy truth about how easily fame can twist even the most human of relationships. When Jamie Dornan finally spoke, it wasn't in a fiery press conference or a viral social media post. It was in the calm tone of a man who had been carrying the weight of misunderstanding for far too long. Sitting across from a television host, dressed simply, hands folded, he took a deep breath before saying the words everyone had been waiting to hear. Sometimes silence doesn't protect you. It just gives people more room to invent their own truth. The room fell quiet. For the first time, Jamie was ready to talk about the so-called rift, the tension between his wife, Amelia Warner, and his longtime co-star, Dakota Johnson. And while the world expected denial or blame, what came out was something far more human. Jamie began by acknowledging what most actors wouldn't, that the 50 Shades trilogy blurred lines not only for audiences, but for those who lived it. We were young, we were under pressure, and we were playing characters who lived in a very charged emotional space, he said. You can't go through something like that and not walk away changed. He spoke of Dakota with genuine warmth. She's one of my dearest friends, he said softly. We built something together that required total trust. And trust doesn't disappear just because a film ends. His tone wasn't defensive, it was protective, as though he was reminding the world that friendship, too, deserves respect. But Jamie didn't shy away from Amelia's side either. He explained that the years following 50 Shades were difficult for his family. The constant headlines, the invasive questions, the endless speculation, they took their toll. Amelia is the most understanding person I know, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But she's also human. No one should have to see their partner's name linked to someone else every single day. He paused, choosing his words carefully. There were times when I felt like I was being split in two. The actor everyone saw and the man I was trying to be at home. I didn't always handle that perfectly. What followed wasn't an excuse, it was an unfiltered truth. Jamie admitted that there were moments of distance, moments when communication with Amelia became strained. Not because of betrayal, but because of exhaustion, the kind that comes from living under constant scrutiny. It wasn't about jealousy, he clarified. It was about trying to protect something fragile, our privacy, our peace. He described Dakota as being incredibly respectful during that time. She stepped back, he said. She understood that Amelia needed space, and that's something I'll always be grateful for. That single sentence changed the tone of the entire conversation. The supposed rivalry the media had been feeding for years suddenly looked different, not as a feud between two women, but as a story of restraint, empathy, and unspoken understanding. Jamie went on to share a small, quiet detail that stayed with everyone who heard it. During one of his lowest moments, when rumors were at their worst, Dakota had sent him a short message. I hope you and Amelia are okay. No explanation, no defense, just care. That's who she is, Jamie said. People love to create drama around her, but at her core, she's kind. As for Amelia, Jamie described her as his compass, the person who kept him grounded when everything else felt like chaos. He smiled when mentioning how she never asked him to choose between loyalty and friendship. She only ever asked me to be honest, he said, and that's what saved us. By the end of the interview, the tension that had fueled years of speculation had dissolved into something quieter, more real. Jamie wasn't defending himself. He was revealing what it means to be human under impossible expectations. There's no rivalry, he said at last. There's just love, in different forms. I love my wife, deeply. I also love my friend, for what we went through together. And that doesn't need to be a scandal. It can just be the truth. His words spread quickly, but this time, the reaction was different. Fans didn't argue, they empathized. They saw not a man caught between two women, but a husband and friend trying to navigate a life the public had made impossibly loud. In the days that followed, Amelia was seen attending an event with Jamie again, smiling, relaxed. Dakota, too, was asked about his interview. Her response was brief but telling. "I'm happy he finally said what needed to be said." And maybe that was the quiet ending everyone had been waiting for, not a dramatic confession or a scandalous revelation, but a moment of clarity. The truth wasn't explosive, it was gentle. The kind of truth that finally lets wounds close. As Jamie walked out of that interview, he seemed lighter, like a man who had finally stepped out from behind years of noise. He had defended both women, not with denial or deflection, but with honesty. And in a world obsessed with drama, that honesty became the most powerful thing of all.